What's up, you guys? It's your girl Sherea Byers, and I'm back with another video. And in this video, we're going to talk about how I manifested my husband. Is a fiance. Your girl got engaged on January 8th, 2023. I want to make this video though because I want to share what the journey was like and what the journey is like. I was not always a girl that I felt like was prepared for marriage. There was some things that happened in my past. So you guys are going to find out some like real secrets about your girl, like some things that nobody really know unless you're very close to me or you're my friend.
Imitation isn't flattery, it's just annoying me. And I'm too about it. And the dirt that they threw on my name turn to soil, and I grew up.
Things first, before I even talk about how I manifested, let's go back to the very beginning of my past relationship and where I was in that current time. Growing up, I grew up Christian, Baptist. I went to like a Catholic school. I went to a couple different schools, but I never had a relationship with God. Like, I understood kind of like what he was, but I didn't actually know God. I didn't have a relationship with God. The summer of I think it was like 3-4 years ago, it's like 2019, 2020, I moved to Columbus with my godmom after falling out with my parents because I no longer wanted to like live in their control. I wanted to do life on my own terms, and that was not something that they agreed with. So I moved to Columbus, Ohio with my godmom, and she was the first person I feel like that actually helped me like understand God a little bit more, and not like religion based but relationship based. She took me to church with her. We did some like devotionals and things like that. So like that was like my introduction to knowing God, and that's really key to like the rest of the story because that's how I manifested my husband, is through God. It was my sophomore year of college, which was technically my senior year. I was moving back to school, and everything in my life felt weird. Like, everybody felt weird. The guy that I was with, he was acting real funny, y'all, like real funny, and I didn't really understand why. I'm like, man, you spent the whole summer away from me. Like, I'm back at school. Like, what's popping? And it just was weird, and even my friends was weird, and it just like, I was so confused. Because I had started building a relationship with God in that summer, I had prayed, and it was like the first time I felt like I prayed alone and like prayed because I truly wanted to build a relationship with God. So I had prayed, I was like, God, can you please remove anybody from my life that's not supposed to be here? And I had no idea what I was talking about. I had no idea what God's plans were, and I didn't even know the power in that prayer. I know now, that's why I'm very selective when I use it. But actually saying that prayer, when I tell you guys, after saying that prayer, within a matter of a week, God moved. He wiped everybody clean. Like, he did the floods, like he wiped everybody out of my life. Like, there was nobody left. So my relationship had died because I found out that he had cheated on me with one of my friends, which was like one of my closest friends at the time in college. The relationship went really bad. Even so, the relationship got so bad that it ended in a court case, and your girl was charged with assault because I maced him and he had like hit me and choked me. That was another reason why I felt so low. I'm like, what is my life? Like, if you type in Cincinnati courts, like, my name comes up. Like, that is not who I am at all. And that broke your girl heart. And then my other friends, they knew about it and they did not tell me. So you know that broke my heart. So like, it just was like I was finding out a whole bunch of things that happened when I was away in Columbus. And that was like God, that was like the moment of the week that God revealed all of those things to me. Like, everybody dropped like flies. Like, it was just so dark and lonely because I was just so confused. And if I'm honest, I didn't want to talk to God after that because that was like my first time praying to him. Like, for me, it wasn't like God like I know him now. So like, when I speak, it's not in like I understand who he is now. But at the time, I'm like, damn, I'm praying to this man or this being, and like, he just wiped everybody away from me. Like, I don't got nothing to say to him. Like, I really did not want to talk to God because I just was like, I just prayed to you for the first time thinking I'm doing something right, and then you wipe everybody from me. That was the moment in my time where I feel like I hit rock bottom because the only thing I had left was school. I no longer had my parents. Like, we didn't have a relationship. I no longer had the guy that I felt like was going to just be my love of my life. I no longer had my friends who I thought were supportive and there for me and cared for me. Like, clearly that wasn't the case. So like, I really felt like there was like nothing more in my life. It got to the point where I wanted to kill myself. Truly felt like there was no reason for me to live. Like, it didn't feel like there was anything left in this world for me. And like, when I think about it now, I get like real, like, kind of angry with myself a little bit because if I would have done that and if I would have killed myself, I would have like I just would have never seen what I see now. I would have never met my baby girl. Like, I don't even want to start crying, but I would have never met Lila. I would have never met Terry. I remember one time in particular, I know I'm getting real deep, but I told y'all I was going to be real deep and vulnerable with y'all. But I remember one time I was in my car that I had worked so hard for at Amazon. I worked like 40 hours a week, and I was working at Kroger. I was making bread, and I knew I wanted to buy myself a car at the end of the summer going into school. So I'm working my butt off. I get this car, and like at my lowest point when I'm at school, I was like, well, what just happens if I just run into this guardrail? Like, no one would even know it's me. I really was like thinking these thoughts of like contemplating like not being here. I get so at myself now. I'm like, girl, you had no idea. Like, that was the moment that God was using to like push me into the next version of me. So like, one time I was in the bathroom and I was on the bathroom floor and I was crying, thinking about killing myself, and all I heard was, go pick up the Bible. I was so desperate that I did not question it. I was very obedient, and I got up and I picked up that Bible that was on my desk, and the first verses that I started to read was Proverbs and Psalms. Those were the first books of the Bible that I was reading. Every night, I'm just going to read one verse. And the only reason why I did that is because once I read it, when I would go to sleep, I didn't feel as lonely. Also, something that I prayed during that time was, God, can you please just be my protector? Can you cover me tonight? Can you make me not feel lonely? Can you be the man that I need? You know, like I just wanted God to like hold me. I felt so alone. And I'm like, if I could just feel like I'm being held, I would feel better and I would have nightmares. So I prayed that prayer, and like that was the most powerful prayer that I've ever prayed, because every night got easier. The next part of my life is kind of where I realized that I met God. I started to learn me all over again. And I really feel like I wouldn't be the person I am today if I never hit rock bottom. If I never like experienced that version of me that didn't know what she wanted and was just confused and just going through life just thinking it's a party, and it wasn't. March 2020, so around COVID time, I recently started talking back to my parents, really my dad, and he told me, you know, if you don't have anywhere else to go, you can come back and live here. So I moved back to Baltimore, and I was staying with my parents again. And that was the season of my life where I feel like God taught me, number one, like who he was. And I learned that through watching sermons, reading the Bible, and just like taking time to like understand God through his word. I also learned like who I am, and I learned that through God, because God's word kept telling me, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You were created for abundance. You was created to dominate. Like, I started to learn who I was based on God's original intention for my life, based on what he was telling me, based on his word, you know? So I learned God, I learned me, and I also learned how to build a hedge around me. And I say that because I was back into my hometown. I was back with my parents, who at a point in my time, they like disowned me as their daughter. So I was back in that environment. God was like, I need you to remember what I said about you. I need you to, when you go back home, I need you to not forget the words that I've said about you. Yes, you might be around people that they remember you as the little girl or the girl that has made so many mistakes, but I need you not to forget what I've told you and what I've been teaching you throughout this past season. That was the season when I was living with them, where I really like woke up and was watching sermons and reading my word, because I just wanted to hear what God had to say about me before I could hear what people thought of me. So, and me learning about me and learning about like God and learning about what God wanted for me, that was the season where I started to manifest my husband, and I knew it, but I didn't know the power in it. This was the time where I was like really just focusing on me. I was right now, what do I want in life? I remember being so like brokenhearted from my past and a past relationship that I even bought a ring from Pandora, and I was like, this was my like promise that I would never date another man ever again. And to me now it's so dramatic, because girl, like you were just hurt. I remember making a promise to God in a prayer, and I was like, God, I'm not going to date another man unless you send him to me. And if you send him to me, I need him to be my husband. Like, I don't want to invest in another human being, especially another man, if this isn't the one I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Like, I remember making that promise to God. When I made that promise to God, that replaced the ring, because it was more than just not wanting to entertain another man. It was like, I don't want to entertain a man unless he's sent by God. That is the most powerful prayer I believe like my women can say when you're on your journey of being ready for that man, is pray that the next man that comes into your life is sent by God. It's like you can't truly thrive as a woman of God if you're not with the man of God. And I only wanted to be with a man of God because I've been with a man that wasn't of God, and I've been with men that wasn't of God, and I could tell the difference. And even though, like, I could tell the difference in who I was, so I knew that the next person I wanted to attract, he had to carry like a different type of weight to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had to know who he was in God. Don't just pray for a man. Pray for the man that God has created for you. Pray for the man that is sent by God. Also, I learned during that time is that I have to become the type of person that can receive the man. I was the version of me that I was in my past relationship. That girl was not ready for a husband. Like, she was not ready for a man of God and a husband. So I had to get her ready. So I had to learn who I was in God. I had to learn who I was in me and get myself ready for the man. So like, I truly believe that you can't just pray for things. You have to become the type of person that can maintain the thing. I wanted to make sure that I was becoming the type of person that could be ready for the man. So another thing that I did is that I watched Mike Todd's series, Relationship Goals. And I know it's still on YouTube, so my ladies, like, you need to go watch that series. Like, I think it's like 4 or 5 parts. I still have in my book upstairs, like, what I was talking about and like what that series was about. That was the first like thing that was like, this is how you get ready for that man. It talks about like being planted and not buried. And just because you might feel you're under and nobody can see you, that doesn't mean you're buried. That means you're just being planted and you're being ready. So for me, I saw that as a flower. Like, I can't just pop out as a flower. I have to grow and I have to become, and that starts with within, that starts under the ground. So like, I wanted to become the person. When he's ready, like, I'm already my flower because I know who I am and I can stand still. And like, I just never wanted to lose myself in another man. I never wanted that ever again. So I had to build my foundation on who God is and like who God says I am and who I am in God. And when Terry came into my life, it was like I knew. It was like a knowing inside of me that like he was just the one. Even then, even though I felt like that, I waited for confirmation. He just had like a different vibe to him. Like, he just was chilling, like, and I don't know, that's what I was attracted to at that time, because I was just attracted to, he like spent a lot of time in like nature and like things like that. Like, that was attractive to me. And it just felt like I was just connecting with God. We would watch sermons over the phone together because we was long distance for a while. We would watch sermons over the phone together. After the sermons, we would have long list of notes where we would just share with each other. Like, you could just feel the difference. You could feel that like your foundation is built on God. And that was like the most important thing for me, is that like, I told him like, look, I need a relationship that's built on God. Like, if you're not interested in growing in God, we can't date. Like, it can't work. And gratefully and happily, like, that was where he was in his life, was that he wanted to get close to God. And that was one of the things that he told me he wanted, like, my responsibility to be as his girl is to like help him grow in his relationship with God. I'm like, man, I could do that. Shucks. Like, God, that's my OG, you know what I'm saying? Because we built that foundation when we first got together. No matter what, like, even if because we have our ups and downs, like, as every couple, because we have our ups and downs, like, we can go back to the foundational thought of like, why are we together? God called us together. And like, just reminding ourselves of like that foundation in which our relationship is built on. Your foundation is built on God. It can't be shaken. It's unmovable, it's unshakable. Like, the enemy, he can try, but at the end of the day, if you go back to God's original intention for your life and your relationship, like, it can't be shaken, like, and it just won't be shaken. So like, even now, sometimes when I feel like we're out of alignment with each other, I'm like, let's watch a sermon. Let's talk to God. Let's get God in the room. Let's get him back in our apartment, because clearly something is missing. And every time we do that, like, 99% of the time, like, we find ourselves getting realigned because we're back in our foundational thought. Watch Relationship Goals, and once you figure out what your list is, like the things that you want in your relationship, once you have those, the next man that comes into your life that's sent by God, make sure you let him know, like, this is what I want. Like, you set your standards, because then they have to meet them. And if he don't meet them, or that's not what he wants, like, then Don't want to next until the one that God sent is from me. I'm waiting for confirmation. Like, yes, Terry was fine. Like, he just was chocolate and just, oh, he just was fine. Like, I couldn't get enough of him. But I also knew that I didn't want him if he wasn't sent from God. And in my eyes, that was more important than how he looked and his aura and his vibe and like the way he talked and like the way he walked. Like all of those things was nice, but I knew that I didn't want him if he wasn't sent from God. And I told God that. And I think that was where God like also knew that I was serious about him and my relationship with him, because I told God, like, I was like, look, like if this not the man that you sent for me, send him back. Send him back. I don't want him. Like, I was serious. And I waited for confirmation, and God gave me the confirmation. And then in that confirmation, I could move, and I felt like I could finally let myself like completely fall in love, because he was sent by God, and I knew that God wouldn't do anything that was going to be a detriment to like my destiny. And yeah, like God might do things that might hurt me, you know, but not actually to harm me. Like it might hurt for a moment, but it's probably because it's a bigger blessing that he wants to get. The past version of me, if I could tell her now, I would tell her, number one, don't give up, baby girl. This is for you. If you in that version of me that was kind of like, you know, trying to figure out like what's going on and why is my life like this, like please don't give up. I'm begging you, don't give up. God really has a plan. I had a realization a couple of days ago when I was like preparing for this video. If I would have gave up, if I'm honest, I feel like people talk about what will be your hell, what will be your heaven. Like for me, my hell would be when I died, God replaying what my life would have been like if I stayed. If I gave up when I was on the bathroom floor at that time, when all those things happened to me, if I gave up, he literally would have replayed when I met Terry. He would have replayed like our whole love journey and everything that happened. He would have replayed Lila when I got pregnant with her, when I gave birth to her. He would have replayed when I became a real estate agent. He would have replayed like my first closing. He would show me all the things that I missed if I would have stayed. And to me, that would be my hell. My hell would literally be giving up before my story is finished. Like, unless God calls you home, your story is still being written. No matter how hard like it can get, I'm telling you, like, don't live in that hell. Like, don't. Like, God, he has a plan, man. I'm telling you, he has a plan. I plan to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. Like, I'm living evidence. I am evidence that if you don't give up and you listen to that voice that's like, God loves me, God has a plan for me, and the enemy is just lying on me. Like, if you listen to that voice, I'm telling you, God will bless you abundantly. I don't know who that was for, but God just wanted me to talk to you, because like, I know it might be hard, and I know it might be dark, and I know it might be lonely, but there's another side. You're gonna look back and be like, damn, like that's what I do now. I'm like, wow, girl, you was crazy. And you was wild, and you made some mistakes, but I forgive me for them. I do. That's why now I can talk about them, and I forgive me for them, because if I never would have experienced that, I would not be sitting here making a video about all of the crazy stuff that I went through. I would have gave up. Y'all wouldn't even see me today. Like, can you imagine if I would have gave up 4 years ago, y'all wouldn't even see me in this video right now. The story is so that God can show you what you're capable of doing. And then in the next journey, if you're in the second stage of your life, where I would take time to quiet out the noise, go in isolation, and just learn who you are. And I feel like the best way to learn who you are is to learn who you are in God, because he created you. He knows you better than your parents and anybody else in the world, because he created you. So like, learn who you are in him, so that in the next season, in stage 3, you can move in that, and you can attract the man that's created for you, because you know why you was created. That's the power of manifestation, is number 1, becoming the person that can attract the thing, and then speaking the thing and actually having an intention for the thing, so that the thing can come to you. I have a Q&A for you guys where you guys can find out a little bit more about like me and my fiance, but I did want to share my story with you guys, because I feel like it's very important to not just talk about the glitz and glams of manifesting your husband, but also talk about the dark stuff that nobody wants to talk about. And I didn't want to talk about it, but God told me to talk about it, so I'm being obedient to talk about it. But I feel like it's for somebody, and because you need to understand, like, each phase of your life and each thing that you go through is for a reason. It's not just pointless. Like, if I would have skipped lessons and steps, I probably will not be with this man right now. I wouldn't, because I wouldn't have been ready for him. I hope that this video blesses you guys. I really hope that you guys loved it. But like, let me know if you guys want to find out anything else about like my journey or my story. Like, put them in the comments. I definitely can make a video about it. Like, I'm an open book, for real. When I say I'm an open book, I'm an open book, because I know there's power in testimony and there's power in sharing your story. So I hope you guys love this video. I hope that it blesses you, and I hope that you manifest the man that's made for you. Okay, I love y'all, and I'm gonna see y'all later.
I've been losing friends and